Hey everyone, I'm Jordy, and this is your guide to the celestial being Algalon.
Your actions are illogical. All possible results for this encounter have been calculated.
Now, in order to access Algalon's room, a raid must complete a quest that begins with killing the medium or hard mode Iron Council and looting a data disk quest starter. Follow that quest line until you get to the part where you receive 4 different quests. These each require you to defeat the hard modes of the 4 keepers, Mimiron, Freya, Thorim, and Hodier, and looting their sigils. Once complete, you can return these quests and receive your planetarium key and open the door to Algalon's room. Now, Algalon is a 2-phase fight. The first, a hectic all-out brawl with Algalon and the various stars and constellations he has in the room, followed by a manic phase 2, where ads begin leaking out from the black holes he spawns and begin to overwhelm you unless you show him who's boss and convince him to leave Azeroth alone. Speaking of, this fight is unique in World of Warcraft in that once you first pull Algalon, you only have 1 hour before he despawns for the week. So make sure you've done whatever you have to do before you pull, as you want to get as many attempts in as you can before your time expires. For raid comp, we bring 2 super beefy tanks and 5 healers. Could 6 heal if you're having problems with some good gear on your DPS, but we recommend 5. Speaking of gear, Algalon is definitely one of those fights that will get much easier as your raid gears up. Your tanks won't get globaled, your healers won't go your DPS will be high enough that you won't skirt that enrage. Everything will get easier over time. So if you find yourself really stuck, just give it a couple weeks and hit it again. Alright, so let's get into Algalon's main abilities. First, Algalon hits very hard. Like, seriously, super hard. Your tanks will need all of the beef they can muster, and even then, sometimes that won't be enough. We'll get into how to avoid bad RNG in the walkthrough, but just use whatever you've got to help your healers out. Every 15 seconds, Algalon will also cast Quantum Strike on his target. This is just an instant damaging attack that needs to be healed through. He will also cast Phase Punch. This does some damage and applies a stacking debuff that once it reaches 5 stacks on his current target, will phase that player into the void, removing them from the fight for 8 seconds. Next, every 20 to 30 seconds, Algalon will cast Cosmic Smash. He'll telegraph 3 red circles on the ground, and after 5 seconds, if you're standing near these, you get knocked sky high and likely die to either damage it itself does or fall damage. The further you are away from these circles, the less damage they do, and the damage falls off pretty fast, so move away from them and don't get hit. This is all almost completely avoidable. Alright, now the main thing that you're going to be struggling with on this fight. 15 seconds into the fight, he'll summon 4 collapsing stars. These mobs have about 210,000 HP with no threat table, and they'll just wander about the room. Every second, they lose 1% of their HP, and when they die, they will explode, dealing about 25,000 shadow damage to everybody in the raid. Yep, 25,000. Your average player has about 20,000 HP, so you're going to need to figure out a way to avoid everyone just dying to this. There are a few, and we'll talk about it in the walkthrough. Now, once the collapsing stars die, they also leave a black hole on the ground. These void zone looking things remain in place and offer the raid the ability to walk into them, taking a small amount of damage and transporting them to the void, where the battlefield is littered with spooky shadow mobs that will chase whoever around and do damage to them. You don't want to enter the void unless you've got a reason, and we'll talk about that in a second. Okay, we're almost done. 2 more things. He'll summon living constellations occasionally. These are polygonal star-like mobs that wander around and cast arcane barrage on players. This is about 10,000 damage unmitigated, but can be interrupted. Additionally, if these mobs find their way toward the black holes and go over them, they will close the black hole and eliminate it from your battle. This is a key mechanic to manage the fight and can help as much as hurt depending on your situation. Finally, Algalon will cast Big Bang. This is an 8-second cast that once completed will deal 110,000 damage to everyone on the battlefield. Additionally, if no one's around once he casts it, he'll cast Ascend to the Heavens and despawn for that attempt. The goal here is to have everyone run into a black hole temporarily, hide in there while he casts and completes it, and then phase back into the regular map and continue the fight. Alright, that's all the abilities for Algalon. Everything he does is super dangerous, so let's talk about how to get through it. Before we get into the walkthrough, we have to do a good bit of planning for this. You'll need to look at your raid and assess what you have available to you. Paladins are the MVPs of this fight because of their ability to cast Divine Guardian or DSAC, a raid-wide damage mitigation of 20% if you cancel or the damage redirect. This is the main way we avoid everyone just straight up dying to the Collapsing Star's Black Hole Explosion. Also, Aura Mastery from Shadow Protection Aura. This is another major cooldown that will provide strong damage mitigation capabilities that you can line up with DSAC to get through the 10 to 12 total explosions that you'll be faced with. There's a few ways to do this. I'll leave the exact way to line them up to you. Here's a couple examples. I'm sure there are more optimal ways to do this, but this is what we did and it worked. All right, second, you'll want to line up as many tank cooldowns as you can. There are a lot of options here. Shield Wall, Paints Up, Hand of Salve, Hand of Sack, Lay on Hands, Trinkets, IBF, Vamp Blood, Last Stand, Survival Instincts, Bark Skin, etc. Here's an example of one. I'll leave the optimizing to you. Okay, let's get into the walkthrough. On pull, Algalon will do some talking before activating. We like to pre-pop Shadow Protection potions here. Helps the healer save some mana and costs you nothing except a little gold. Now you can spread out around the room, but you want to be careful not to get too far in the back as everyone needs to be within range of your paladins for the Divine Sack to hit them. All of your melee should be on his left foot. Mark someone you trust to make the calls for Cosmic Smashes and have the melee follow them. Get those cooldowns rolling and start to pull him toward the wall. Lust, go crazy. 15 seconds into the fight, the Collapsing Stars will spawn. You're going to want to blow up the first one. That should spawn near the melee as fast as possible. Get it dead, and the melee near it need to be careful not to get too close as it dies or you'll be phased and you will likely die. This goes for everyone during the fight. If a star is going to die near you, you risk being phased as soon as the black hole appears and this could wipe you, so make sure you stay away from the low HP ones. Alright, the first star has died. Boom, the damage has gone out. We opt not to use a cooldown here as the raid should be super healthy, have powered shields and shadow protection potions up, and shouldn't be too dangerous. Now the real fun begins. We have a couple warlocks assigned to dot up one of the stars. This puts its HP lower than the other two and makes it easier to pop well ahead of the rest. The goal here is to have an even spacing of stars dying so that it gives your healers plenty of time to get the raid back up and also not so fast as to run out of stars because they'll respawn if there are none left. We assign a hunter to be the one focusing on the stars, making the calls to use cooldowns and doing any of the damage necessary to get them to pop at the right times. Okay, so about 1 minute in, you'll want to pop your second star. Boom, out goes the damage. Should have had either an Aura Mastery or a DSAC rolling, and no one should be dead. During all of this, you've got Cosmic Smashes to avoid, and living constellations are beginning to run around. The ranged will interrupt them when you can and avoid the damage they're putting out. Alright, now you've got 2 black holes on the ground, one by the boss and one somewhere else. It's your off-tank's job to taunt the living constellations and dunk them into the black holes that you've chosen not to use. This despawns the constellation and removes the black hole, bringing up the battlefield and helping mitigate extra damage from them. 20 seconds or so after the second black hole explosion, you should be popping your third. Get that extra cooldown going and make sure to stay away from the black hole. One thing to keep in mind, the stars respawn at a minute 15 into the fight and every minute thereafter. It's super important to kill that third star just after that 115 mark, as this reduces the amount of new stars that will spawn since 2 are already dead on the battlefield, so make sure to pop that third one after the new ones respawn. Okay, now you've got 1 left, and at 90 seconds, Algalon should begin casting Big Bang, his raid wipe mechanic. If you're fast, you can pop this last star now, or if you're really good, you can pop it while everyone is in the void to mitigate the damage it does entirely, but that's not necessary. Okay, so he's casting Big Bang. Everyone runs to the designated black hole and phase into it, except your Shadow Priest. Their job is to cast Dispersion at the end of the Big Bang cast and just hang out. Dispersion reduces damage taken by 90%, and doing this will mean that Algalon won't kill anyone with his Big Bang, while also not despawning himself because someone is still in that phase with him. Okay, Big Bang is out. Everyone should phase back into Algalon's realm, and the fight continues. New collapsing stars will have spawned a bit ago. You should only need to kill 2 of these in the next 90 seconds until the next big bang. So about 30 seconds in, pop the first one, then the second one about 20 seconds later. Make sure your cooldowns are popped appropriately. Your off tank, whoever it is at the time, runs the living constellations into whatever black hole you've decided not to use, and the raid continues avoiding cosmic smashes. Now the fight just continues this way until the third big bang. You should have Algalon lowish by then, ideally about 20 to 30%, and from here it's time to ignore the stars and burn, burn, burn. Once you've hit 20%, the stars will despawn and you can relax a bit. So at one point, just let them tick down and avoid worrying about them, as he should phase before they expire and explode. Okay, you've hit 20%. At 4 spots in the room, he'll summon black holes, and the void creatures from that phase will begin leaking out onto the battlefield, attacking anyone on their threat table. Healers often are the targets, so your off tank should do what he can to taunt them off of them. DK's army is really nice here too, whatever you can do to help. From here, it's just a full burn, as at the 6-minute mark, he'll cast his final big bang and then enrage, one-shotting everyone in his path. Then, at 6:30, he'll cast Ascend to the Heavens and just wipe the raid entirely and despawn. At about 3.5%, he'll give up and concede defeat. Congratulations on defeating the hardest boss in Ulduar, and enjoy your chest of eye level 252 spoils.
Watch your... that's Bob.
Guardian Spirits on sync.
It's just me, it's not me. Burn fucking boss, sapper. I'm dead.
Does anyone have a way to live?
I do. I have a way to live, but we're not... I don't think we're there. We gotta burn.
We oughta...
Yeah, bitch!
Yeah!
Let's go!
Alright, let's talk about some tank tips. Like I said earlier, this guy is the singular hardest hitting mob you've faced to date, and he attacks fast. Do whatever you need to do beforehand to be ready to get your face punched in. He does not mess around. And line up your tank cooldowns. I'm going to throw this list up again as an example of just how meticulous we plan this. As you get more gear, this will be less necessary, but early on, something like this is really great. Also, assign someone to call all of these cooldowns. Comms can get kind of crazy on this fight, so concise and simple is best here. Also, make sure you tank the boss closer to the wall than the center of the room. This will prevent any unintended melee cleave on the stars and screw up your timing for their deaths. As you're tanking, watch those cosmic smashes. Do your best not to move the boss too much as you avoid them. Just shuffle around the boss, turning him instead of dragging him too far. And when you're running to the black holes for the big bang, sometimes a living constellation will get dangerously close to your assigned black hole, so a timely hodge, shockwave, grip, whatever, to get it out of the way and in a safe spot can be really clutch. And for some healer tips. For the tank healers, you really need to spam the living hell out of your tank here. We have 3 dedicated tank healers, 2 paladins and a shaman to keep ancestral fortitude up, and that works well. For the paladins, your mana will be an issue, so you'll need to judge a living constellation and hit it every now and then to keep your mana high. This is a difficult fight that will test your abilities. And call for innervates early. Fight is 6 minutes long, so each druid will get 2 of them. Get them on cooldown early so you have access to it later in the fight. For the raid healers, especially the disc priests, you're going to want to abuse Rapture on this fight. A timely set of shield pops can juice your mana and take you from 50% back to full if done correctly, so do your best to plan ahead and get that big return. For the DPS, this is a manic DPS race, so do everything you can to pump the boss while managing your other responsibilities. Interrupt the living constellations, avoid cosmic smashes, look around and know where you're going to go for the black holes. You being dead is going to be the biggest DPS loss, so do not die. For that first star spawn, all the ranged should turn and blow it up as soon as possible. Get it dead before the first cosmic smash goes out, and make sure that everyone is aware of where it popped. That should be your first planned black hole. For the warlocks, throw down a new soul well right before the pull. Your DPS can use the health stones early, and then partway through the fight, pick up a new one and get a second use later on. And watch your cleave. It's entirely possible a star floats nearby where you've got Algalon. and you cannot cleave it. Its health is being tightly monitored by your chosen star killer, so any extra damage is going to screw up their timing by a large margin and blow your raid up at the wrong time. Alright, well that's it for Algalon. If you like this video or learned something, consider tossing me a like and subscribe. It helps me a bunch. Thank you so much. This is probably the end of my Ulduar series. I want to thank everyone so much for all the support this last month as I've gotten these out. It's been insanely amazing and I'm super grateful. For those that want to support me further, I've set up a Patreon. You can get access to a supporter-only Discord channel, your name here, like these other amazing people. Thank you guys. Or monthly Warcraft log reviews where we can dissect you or your raid's play and work on improving your performance. And with that, we wrap up Ulduar. Thank you guys again, and see you out there.
Big Bang and
You
5.
have to kill that 14%. Clink.
Hey, law use Guardian.
We'll need a Frost Nova here. Boot to the back.
Hellstone?
Boot to the back. Everybody to the back. All hand boot. Hellstone on the way.
That was
Get into
actually
the middle of the
pretty
room.
ridiculous.
IDF, time IBF.
I can't believe that we all made that right
A
now.
lot of cosmic here.
End of Sacrament Gorg.
Be in the middle of the room right